Cal Summers readjusted his collar and peered right into the camera. For the first time in years, he was nervous that the glare would blind him, and he would misread what was written on the teleprompter screen. A flub or fumble here and there wouldn't have mattered just a few days ago, but tonight, it felt like life or death. Do or die. He could feel his heart vibrating in his chest and his lungs pinched from the stress. Was he really ready for what came next? Perhaps he was the only man for the job. Only 1 week ago, anchorwoman Amber Whitman had finally gone into labor with her second child, and a spot on the evening news had opened up. Cal had already done the morning news that day when he got the call, but he was eager to take the opportunity. Although his producers were skeptical that he was ready to take on the mantle, Cal was adamant. This would be the first step in becoming one of the greats, a household name. He had already become the trusted face of the Channel 7 morning news for nearly a decade, and Cal was going to do whatever it took to dominate the evening slot. This was his big break. That evening, he arrived at the station and insisted that a production assistant powder his nose a bit to make sure he was ready for his primetime TV debut. He greeted the team, grabbed a cup of coffee, and headed straight for the anchor chair. Though it was the same chair he sat in only hours ago, in this moment, it was a throne. All he needed was to be crowned. He felt he was just an accolade away from being an American broadcast king. The studio floor started to buzz as personnel took their places at their respective stations. Veteran anchor Phil Turner bounces into the seat next to him and smiles politely at Cal, warmly welcoming him onto the team, if only for the next few days. The lights lowered and dimmed, and the speakers started to crackle. The meteorologist, Norman Hammer, stretched his neck and waited patiently next to a large green screen, ready to predict the weather. The energy was much different from the morning. This was the real deal. The teleprompter flickered on, displaying the first few lines of the news script, which Cal hadn't had time to proofread. But he didn't need to. He knew he had the skills to go in blind. He was ready. But all the same, he focused on the first few lines on the prompter and tried to memorize them for a good, strong start. He suddenly had the creeping fear that he would somehow forget his own name during the introduction. Then suddenly, the words started to bend and distort on the teleprompter screen. They were almost illegible for a moment, prompting Cal to snap his fingers and point in its general direction, hoping someone would come and take a look before the countdown. After a nearby technician looks at it and confirms it's in perfect working order, Cal, in his ever-suspicious mind, wonders if he's managed to make enemies while he was here all these years. Someone who might want to see him fail on his first night presenting the evening news. But it all returned to normal, and the television director, Todd, counted down from 5. Cal's stomach was on fire, and his chest was quaking. This was it. No looking back now. His co-anchor, Phil, started off the broadcast.
Good evening, I'm Phil Turner.
And I'm Cal Summers in for Amber Whitman tonight.
He swiveled towards camera 2 and tried his hardest not to smile so big. He nailed the opening. He took a quick breath and began to read the news, exhilarated.
Tonight on Channel 7 News at 5, we're officially on baby watch. A baby gibbon monkey is expected to be born sometime in the overnight hours, making it the 4th primate to be born at Springfield Zoo.
And in a wild coincidence,
Phil says playfully,
our own Amber Whitman is also on baby watch in the coming days as she's expecting her own child this week.
Cal chuckles.
Hopefully a bit less hairy than our bundle of joy at the zoo. Right, Phil?
Phil hesitantly agrees and moves on to the next story.
That's right, Cal. In other news, a man was spotted fleeing the scene of a multi-vehicle hit-and-run incident on the north side, and police are asking anyone with information to come forward.
Cal gets ready to read his first major news story. He trains his eyes on the teleprompter, which still seems like it's on the fritz. The script flashes red for a moment, then returns to normal just in time for his cue.
And if you haven't already done so, be sure to purchase your lottery ticket tonight as the jackpot has just hit $6 million. Those winning lottery numbers for tomorrow's drawing are coming up next.
Todd, the director, sends the show to commercial with a perplexed look on his face. He looks at Cal and Phil and checks the teleprompter. He finally asks,
Wait a minute. Cal, did you just say the winning lottery numbers are coming up?
Yeah, I just read what was on the teleprompter. Phil, you didn't see it?
No, Cal, I didn't see that at all. It was the, story on the Springfield miners, right, Todd?
The director nods his head, a bit irritated.
Just, read what's on the screen, Cal. I know it's a lot of, pressure. And this is all new for you.
No, it's not that. Something's wrong with the teleprompter. I mean, I know how to read, all right?
I know, Cal, I know. It's the same prompter from the morning news. Just take it slow. And we're back in 5, 4.
They come back from the commercial break. Cal regains his composure. He whispers to himself nervously.
Just shake it off, Cal. Don't choke live on air. Welcome back. A Springfield woman is fighting for her life tonight after being trapped in a burning car following a horrific collision on the highway. She was airlifted to a local hospital where she remains in critical condition.
Todd breathes a sigh of relief, and Phil carries on with his report.
And later tonight, we'll hear from the police officer who was there on the scene of the parking garage collapse on Main Street yesterday afternoon, which caused over $100,000 in damage and the injuries of 3 people.
That's right.
Cal says morosely.
But now, as promised, those, winning jackpot, lottery numbers?
The team rushes to the teleprompter to check the script, but what's written is a story about the annual cheese festival taking place next week. Cal awaits the go-ahead to continue with what's being shown to him. Todd, looking incredibly disheveled and at wit's end, swirls his finger forward, encouraging him to continue.
Okay. For the pick 5, we have numbers 16, 36, 88, 45, and 14. Again, that's 16, 36, 88, 45, and 14. So if you haven't already done so, be sure to claim your tickets today. And stand by for an exciting draw tomorrow night, right here in this station with Dawn McFarlane. Good luck, everyone.
Cal smiles ridiculously, trying to save the situation, but everyone is stunned. The studio is completely still and silent, except for a few interns quickly and quietly writing down the lottery numbers on their clipboards. Todd again throws to commercial and motions for Cal to get out of the anchor chair. Cal is emotional, but he can't exactly identify the emotion he's feeling. But Todd is utterly perturbed.
What in the world was that, Cal? What were those numbers? Did you just pull those out of thin air? Why?
Todd, I swear, I read exactly what was on that screen. I don't know what else to tell you. Somebody has to be pulling a prank or something.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, you already came in this morning. It's on me, Cal. You go ahead and take the day off tomorrow. Just catch up on sleep. We'll see you Friday morning, okay?
Todd, I swear to you, someone must have done this on purpose. You have to go back into the script file and check for yourself,
We'll have Phil
okay?
finish the news. Just get some rest, okay? We'll know the damage in the morning.
Sorry, Todd.
It's okay, Cal.
I know you knew how important this was for me.
Of course, Cal. Just get some rest.
Cal entered his condo quietly and untied his tie, flinging it into the kitchen sink. He snatched off one of his shoes and threw it into the wall. He ripped off the other one and threw it into his bedroom door. Cal had risen before the sun every weekday morning to deliver the news to his sleepy viewers for the last 8 years. After an eternal string of uninspiring puff pieces and under-rehearsed banter about less than certain weather forecasts, his calm demeanor and reassuring presence had guided viewers through countless storms, scandals, and local celebrations. He always wondered, when would it be his time to step out into the spotlight and shine during prime time? Well, tonight was that night, and he blew it. Whatever was happening with the teleprompter, it was his words everyone heard in the end. He was beat and went straight to bed. He tossed and turned all night and was awoken by his normal alarm at 3 o'clock in the morning. He sighed heavily and glanced at his phone. He had one missed call from a private number, but no voicemail was left. He checked social media, hoping everyone had just ignored his strange report, but it was worse than he feared. He was completely mocked. Edited images of him predicting the presidential election results and movie award winners littered his timelines and feeds, some posted by his closest family and friends. He wished he could just disappear. Should he even go back into the station Friday morning? His career was ruined. He was sure of it. 7:30 had rolled around, and he thought to himself, wouldn't it be funny if he had guessed some of the winning lotto numbers correctly? He flipped on the local station, silently critiquing the aesthetic of the studio from that angle. Dawn McFarland popped up on the screen, and his pulse quickened. She looked great in that purple dress. How impressed would she be if she found out Cal knew the winning numbers? Maybe she'd finally take him up for that coffee. Dawn spun the numbered ping-pong balls in a hand-cranked cage mixer. She smiled cheerfully as she plunged her hand into the sea of plastic spheres. One by one, she pulled out the balls and presented them on screen, like a pro.
Okay, the first number is 16.
Ah, wow, that's funny.
She continued and scooped another ball out.
Next we have 36.
Cal's admiring face slipped quickly into a stunned frown.
There's just no way.
He said under his breath.
And let's see, 88.
Dawn said, smiling.
Wait, what the?
And 45. And finally, we have 14. If you have any or all of these numbers, congratulations, you're a winner. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Dawn signs off perfectly as always. And then a bright, abrupt, and loud dishwashing liquid commercial seizes the TV screen. Cal, quietly sitting alone on his couch, clutches his mouth, completely aghast. After the initial shock wore off, he looked around his desolate condo and yelped with excitement.
No way, are you kidding me?
He shouts to himself, laughing hysterically. What now, Todd? He thought. He immediately pulls out his phone and records a video to post online.
So, as I was saying, good people of Springfield, I hope you got your lottery tickets, because someone is definitely winning tonight.
Not long after he shared the video, a steady stream of hearts and likes flooded in. Loyal watchers of Channel 7 commented about how they had no doubts in him and had played the numbers he gave the night before. Cal felt not only vindicated, but validated and seen. And he also felt a little strange. Who knew the numbers? How did they know they were the winning ones? And why did they put them in the teleprompter for him to read, and not Phil? Was it all just a strange coincidence? Interrupting his train of thought, another private call vibrated his phone. He silenced it and threw it on the couch. Getting up to grab a celebratory beer from the fridge, he heard it ringing again. Annoyed, he grabbed up the phone, but this time he saw it was Todd. He answered it instantly.
Hello?
Cal said professionally, as it was his boss after all.
How the heck did you do that, Cal?
He heard through the phone.
TV magic, Todd. I'll never tell.
Cal said playfully.
No, really. This is just too weird for me. And you just read what you saw on the teleprompter?
Yeah, honestly. I'm not that clever, Todd. You know that.
Maybe not.
They laughed together.
Now what?
Cal says as the silence envelops the conversation.
I guess I'll see you tomorrow night at 4?
Todd says it almost against his will. Cal's face brightens. He gets ready for bed and possibly for one of the best days of his career. Perhaps even his life.
Good evening, I'm Cal Summers in for Amber Whitman again tonight. An unprecedented number of state lottery jackpot winners have already come forward to claim their share of the $6 million. Though they will be splitting the money, they don't seem to be too unhappy about their slice of the pie. We're so glad you tuned into Channel 7 for your evening news. It seems to have paid off for quite a few Springfield viewers.
Yes, indeed, Cal.
Phil says fakely.
You picked a great time to show off these psychic abilities of yours, Cal. Glad you're a good friend of mine, right?
You bet, Phil.
Cal reciprocates obnoxiously.
Well, we've got a story developing in South Springfield. After receiving a tip at the station, we sent our investigative reporter down to a small ranching town where residents claim
Cal was on fire. He had the entire station eating out of the palm of his hand, as it should be in Cal's opinion.
Police and veterinarians are at a total loss. More on that later.
Strange indeed, Phil. In other news, a shocking armed bank robbery ends in a high-speed chase between two suspects and law enforcement tomorrow afternoon. The alleged robbery takes place around 2 p.m. at the credit union on the corner of Granger and Spring Avenue downtown. Citizens are urged to stay clear of the area during this time so that police can best conduct their apprehension and subsequent investigation into the crime.
The studio doesn't know if this is a joke. Todd anxiously rolls up the loose sheets of paper in his hand and looks at Cal, hoping for some sign either way. Cal looks around nervously and doesn't know what to do. He continues with the broadcast.
And in sports, the Springfield Miners will earn their spot in the playoffs this coming Sunday, breaking the 5-game winning streak of the Greenville Rockets. There will be celebrations all over the city Sunday night, so stay safe and have a little patience on the roads leaving the stadium there.
He's shocked by the information he's just provided. He himself had already bet against his own hometown team. But he's already reported the story, and quite well. Like the unapologetic professional he is. He lightly shrugs innocently towards Todd once he's off camera, and continues the broadcast alongside Phil without further incident. But the damage was already done. The police had already caught wind of the latest premonition and were waiting in the news station parking lot for Cal after work. They approached him slowly but directly. The deputy asks with a smile,
Nice to meet you, Mr. Summers. Do you mind speaking with us at the station?
Cal gulped hard and submitted right away. He heads back towards the news station entrance. The deputy corrects him.
No, Mr. Summers. Our station.
All involved thought it was quite odd that no one else saw what he saw on the teleprompter, and that he was so elaborate in the details of a crime that hadn't happened yet. Cal explains that he was just reading what was on the teleprompter. The sheriff asks lightheartedly after most of the questioning is done.
So, what would you be doing if you couldn't do the evening news anymore?
Cal thinks for only a short moment before responding.
The weather. I love what I do.
After an hour-long interrogation, Cal was released without any charges. While being escorted to his car outside the police station, one of the officers admits that his elderly mother had finally won the lottery after years of playing, thanks to him. But he warns him to keep his nose clean going forward. Cal has every intention to. But he's already made up his mind that he would never stop doing the news, no matter what. As he gets into his car, he gets another private call. He decides to finally answer it. There's nothing but static at first. But then he hears a small, faraway voice.
Excellent work, Calvin. We knew we could depend on you.
I'm sorry, who is this?
He looks back over his shoulder, but the deputy has already made it back into the station.
We've been watching you for a while, Calvin. We know your desires, all of them. We gave you an opportunity to become something greater than your destiny. To bring order to chaos and chaos to order. You will forever be known as the god of American television. But remember, this great power comes at a great price.
I don't understand. Who is this? Are you the one pranking me at the station? Hello?
The call ended, and he never heard from them again. Saturday had eventually rolled around, and just as predicted, the credit union was ambushed, and the robber and getaway driver were apprehended. Over the weekend, there was a whirlwind of love and hate pouring into the station online, through emails and calls, and even physically. After the Springfield Miners won their first game in ages, they specifically thanked Cal for the good luck at the post-game press conference, but the police only grew more and more suspicious of him and his supposed precognition. They decided to sit in on his last broadcast that following Monday, which was a good thing, because by the time Cal arrived at the station on Monday, there were pickets and protests, as well as people lined up to get autographs from him at the door. Inside, it was packed with all kinds of people, wanting to watch the broadcast live and see the magic teleprompter in person, and a show they would have indeed. Everyone was on edge. The director counts Phil and Cal down, and Cal opens with a flourish, growing attached to his role sitting in what he believes is the most important chair in the world. This is what he was born to do. This is what he was trained to do. This was his destiny. He was truly the god of American television. The entire studio fell into a hush as they awaited the next day's news.
Ladies and gentlemen,
his voice is steady but urgent.
Thank you for tuning in to Channel 7 News on this Monday evening. We start our broadcast with a special announcement.
The teleprompter flashes red, as it always does before it reveals eerily reliable information. He reads the slowly scrolling script authoritatively and strongly, knowing every resident in the area is hanging on his every word. And in a way, so was he.
And
Cal choked upon the next word. He scanned forward in the script and was doubtful he was seeing correctly. He squints and stammers. His crew exchange concerned glances, hoping their miraculous equipment hasn't failed. Phil nudges him to proceed before they lose their viewers at home. He looked up and gazed over the sea of anxious and excited eyes peering at him from the back of the darkened studio. They started to sway back and forth, eager to hear what he had to report. But how could he share what he's just learned? With what decorum could he pass on this information that wouldn't plunge the room into chaos? Cal straightened up his posture and focused in on camera 2. He took a sharp breath and began his report. Slowly and steadily, he said,
An asteroid, taller than the Empire State Building, will strike the city of Springfield tomorrow afternoon. The impact is imminent, and local authorities and law enforcement will have little to no warning outside of this broadcast.
Cal stops to ensure what he said was accurate, but the teleprompter keeps pushing on.
The death toll will reach roughly 20 to 30,000 people, but the total destruction and loss of life won't be determined for months.
Weatherman Norman Hammer rushes towards the teleprompter, searching for the words Cal is reading. Cal continues to deliver the warning.
Congestion on the interstate and civil unrest will contribute to these rising figures. For now, you are asked to shelter in place and follow the instructions of law enforcement.
The studio went from eerily silent to erupting into complete bedlam. Producers yelled, phones rang, and the control room buzzed with frantic activity. Phil removed himself from the set, dialing his wife's phone number, hoping to get her and the kids prepared. But Cal stayed focused, watching as the teleprompter continued to update.
I say again to all who are listening, an asteroid impact is imminent. Prepare for the worst.
Cal, although saddened that this would be his last broadcast, feels slighted. Besides having the knowledge that his entire city would be destroyed within the next 24 hours. His short-lived reign upon the throne of the nightly news seemed unjust to him. Nevertheless, he went off script and addressed the panicked people of Springfield, right into camera 1.
It has been a pleasure and an honor to share the nightly news with you these last few nights. Good luck to you all, and good night.